Welcome back to Wario Land 3. So yeah, let's continue collecting more treasures.
Lovely.
Yeah, oh god, the pool of rains. Good job it's not acid. Poor Mario would have burnt his foot stepping in that.
Well, it's a good thing this is not Mario lives.
Mm-hmm. At this point, we're not even sharing the Super Mario Land moniker. So, all right. So back to the big bridge, and let's see what other things we can do in here. Ooh, the blue key. Unfortunately, we still don't have the power-up that allows us to break the harder blocks, so I guess we'll have to come back here later.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so what else can we find in here? I actually forgot what was the... I'm thinking I get the red treasure in here. Yes, I think I do. Yeah.
Guess this is more than the big bridge, this is more like the Golden Gate.
Yeah, I already did the Gilgamesh joke, so...
Well, the level itself might be called the big bridge, but I was more comparing it to a, real world landmark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good job. Good job Magneto isn't here.
It's probably inspired by...
You do know, Dweebs, that the Golden Gate Bridge gets destroyed not just by Magneto.
Yeah, it's probably inspired by...
That's the thing, though, with the X-Men movies. The people who are in charge of them must hate bridges.
Mm-hmm. It's probably inspired by one of the big American bridges. Usually, Japanese cartoonists love to take inspiration from those specific ones.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Like I saw this YouTube comment on the trailer for Apocalypse, where it was like, hello, welcome to our villain auditions. How do you feel about bridges? Fucking hate them.
All right.
Oh, hi.
So these bears are fucking annoying. Why? Because if they hit you with their snowflake projectile, they basically drop away from the platforms, meaning you have to... Well, you'll be able to see in a moment. Right there. Fortunately, I was right next to the wall, right there.
You
see?
slide in the opposite direction of the
projectile. So as you can imagine, it's a pain if you're on small platforms. It will basically make you fall and have you to start the whole process all over again. And yeah, it's about this is a clear case of the developers being dicks. Let's just put this guy right here in a place where it's hard to avoid. And like, come on, guys, it's just there you go. See, you see what I mean? These bears are annoying as fuck.
Something unbearable.
Yeah, basically.
Also, yes, I gotta love that. That traditional 8-bit decree of a projectile being able to reach you even if you're just on the platform above, because fuck you.
And I mentioned that I hate this section. I just... This isn't even challenging. This is just the developers being dicks. Like, it's just... See?
Nope. I think what you're supposed to do is to literally charging guns blazing instead of just approaching quietly.
Yeah, that's the problem too. Like if I tried doing that earlier and I just got...
Well, no, what you did was still moving forward, but normally, and only when you saw the enemy was to, the idea to charge. The idea, I guess what I would suggest was... There you go.
There we go. Jesus fucking Christ. Die, you fucking evil bear. So there you go. Both the key and the chest are actually very close to each other.
But you need to go back up again.
Brilliant.
To actually open it.
That's like, I don't know, that bear looks like something I could see it being in like Digimon or something. What would be its name?
Mm-hmm.
Polarmon.
Yeah, that. And if this was, since this game came out in 2000. Since if we're going by the Dobby standards at the time, the bear will probably sound like I don't know, the Big Lebowski, the Big Lebowski or something.
Well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember the Elvis monkey?
All right.
What was that bullet?
So
it's a crayon.
Yeah, and one again, the idea is to cut. If we manage to cut all the crayon treasures, we'll be able to unlock a little mini game on that mountain. But later, go on, Jova.
That is not the first magical crayon I've ever seen, I'll admit.
I've seen programs like Smarts.
I'm pretty sure a Kirby game actually had something like that.
There's also Rainbow Bright.
There's also the boy and his magical crayon.
And Theo, remind me, didn't the Drawn to Life games also have something akin to that?
Kinda. Yeah, kinda.
Wait, drawing stuff to life. Isn't that what THQ tried to stake their future on?
Well, it wasn't actually that. It was another thing on their own. Jesus. No,
Okay,
I don't even know. I don't even know who owns the Drawn to Life IP. Let me check.
Okay, so
Somebody.
yeah, somebody. Okay, so now we're back in the stagnant swamp. So let's see if we can find something else. Yeah, that's it.
Hopefully you don't get splinters, Wario.
Yeah, I say poor Wario must have splinters in his arm.
Okay,
yeah.
to go for the more recent entry that he did. I think it's a case where it might be for whoever does it, because the last game was developed by a team called Digital Continue and published by 505 Games. Being is that 505 Games doesn't really own stuff. It's more of a case of, they just publish stuff that needs to, but they don't really retain ownership of anything.
505 Games, the publishers of such masterpieces as
Death Stranding.
Ashes Cricket 2013.
And if I remember correctly, I think they also published Control.
The 505 published both Death Stranding and Ashes Cricket.
And Control.
Like I said for Joe, 505 is more of it's basically a publishing company that serves just in case when a developer needs one but doesn't want to attach themselves to one of the big ones. They are actually an Italian company, but again, they trade off that by not really owning that much. I think one of the major IPs that they actually do own legitimately might be the Assetto Corsa series, because that's also an Italian-made game series. But I don't know.
All right. Hopefully this flute will help us. There we are.
Yeah. Well,
wait! The flute didn't look like that on the treasure screen, but whatever.
It's a stylistic choice. Also, that sound was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sure that's a flute and not,
It's
like a whistle.
It's a flute similar, clearly, for a snake charmer, as you can see. That.
There you go. Now that there you go. See, now I can actually go back to that level we did in the previous part and actually properly get a new treasure. Now that the snakes are all out of their jars.
Neat.
There you go.
Metroidvania.
Ahoy.
See, it's one of those cases where the treasure was open for me for getting, thanks to a previous treasure I got, but I had to get this other treasure to wake up the snakes.
Neat.
I really wish that it's one of those cases where I really wish the game would have told me, okay, the treasure is open, but there's still one more requirement before you can do something here. Just so that the player doesn't go into the level thinking he can now get another treasure, but he still can't. I
do feel like that kind of borders on the length of being mad at a Metroidvania for being a Metroidvania, though.
Well, I get that, Jova, but if I wanted to play a Metroid game, I'd play a Metroid game,
No, Metroidvania. It's kind of a genre.
Well, yeah, I get that, but Wario Land 2 was not like this, and I feel like when I don't know, I don't come into Wario Land for that kind of experience, personally.
There you go, found it. The instrument that is used mostly commonly for snake charm is called, pardon the pronunciation, if I'm from India, either punji or punji.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a more elaborate version of a flute, as showcased.
Okay. For me, it's one of those cases where, I like Metroidvanias, but that's not really what the Wario Land series has built itself upon. So I feel like this new Southern Metroidvania direction feels a bit like, I don't know. It's just like,
honestly, it doesn't feel like that much of a departure from Wario Land. Honestly,
well,
it just has the.
Sorry, go on.
It just has the added extra layer of, you need this to go here and there and whatnot. Like, I guess it depends, but for me, it's just not really a deal breaker, I guess.
I forgot Sorry, go on.
I can get how it would annoy some folk, but again, I don't see it as like this massive deal breaker. Like,
oh, it's not.
It is like like, I mean, again, it feels like an evolution of the formula to an extent and whatnot. And I can sort of get why they did it, to make it feel more like an adventure in that sort here and there. Like, not quite RPG, but you know, it definitely feels like you're going around the map a lot more to fulfill certain tasks here and there while coming here and back later. Granted, I can definitely get how it's not for everyone, but I guess, you know, after a game that had as many different paths and alternative things to do as Wario Land 2, a Metroidvania doesn't really surprise me as much, given how, again, you could see it as an extension of the gameplay.
Oh, sure. For me, it's one of those cases where, like, I actually preferred the more focused level design and structure of the previous game. Like, I felt like it made the game a lot more snappy and much more handheld friendly.
I'd say the level design is still focused here as well. I think what you're thinking of more is like the progression as opposed to the level design.
Sure.
I forgot if I did mention in one of the previous part, but I think it could have been worked better if this was a genuine actual spin-off rather than a direct sequel to 2. The advantage when it did work for something like Kirby, because, you know, even Kirby did that, is that Kirby at that point still had like a shitload of games being released around the same time, and the first one that he did, I forgot specifically what it was, but it was one of the Game Boy Advance titles.
Hard to believe.
Sorry?
Hard to believe that only just recently our pink ball boy finally got a 3D platform.
Well, I was most talking just about Metroidvania, not necessarily, you know, the fact that it was still 2D.
I know, but it was on topic with the gameplay.
Sure. When it happened to Kirby, it probably worked because, again, there was just, you know, many different games being released, and it was just marketed as, you know, just another game. And I guess it did help because Kirby, aside from, you know, referencing actual stuff from the past, it doesn't really have a clear continuity when it comes to, you know, one game following one another, not even in terms of, you know, actual number titles, aside from some of the early games. We stopped following that trend, even though, like I said, the past games gets referenced all the time anyway. If anything, ironically enough, the only continuity we seem to be getting is tied to Galactanite, of all people.
Remind me, when it came to this game's reception, was it just the critics that liked it better than Wario Land 2?
No, it seems
it's universal. It's universally the fan favorite. I personally disagree, well, okay, two things. One, but Jova, what about Kirby's Air Ride?
What about Kirby's Air Ride?
I get what Pedro's saying is that you asked for a 3D Kirby game.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Isn't that more a racing game, though?
But it's 3D. But there's been some people who have mentioned Kirby's Air Ride when... Well, we already bit this guy before, but...
Also, it's more of a rumor than anything, so...
I will say this. I can get how this one could be considered the fan favorite in a way. Like, again, I mean, granted, I guess it really does come down to this or that. For me, I like this game, but I will admit I do see some issues in how it does move away from the series' identity. What with the whole Captain Syrup not even being in this game. And you know what? Maybe they didn't want to make it stale. That's the thing. After 2, she never came back again until, well, showing up as that bit role in Wario Land Shake It.
Again, that was basically what I was saying. If the main series did continue the quote-unquote real Wario Land 3 was something more akin to Wario Land 2, and this was released around the same time as instead of a spin-off, like, say, Wario Land Quest or something, I get the idea it probably, you know, wouldn't have created much of a problem, you know, for someone like Pedro who wanted, you know, them to stick close to the Formula 2. Again, I get the idea it might be the same effect that, you know, that happened to Metroid Prime Federation Force, just potentially poor timing of release.
To play fair to this game, I can see why some people would be fine to the fan favorite, but you know what? I'll let you go first, Pedro.
Let me put it this way. Okay, so you want to go into a more Metroidvania direction. Okay, even still though, considering this is not Metroid, can you at least let me keep all the abilities I had like in Wario Land 2 at least, so I can have more flexibility in how I progress? Like, it's just one of those cases where I feel like, can we at the very least give me one of those two? Like, it's just like, I feel like they were a bit too quick to drop the Wario Land 2 structure and / progression. Like, I feel like there was still more mileage you could have gotten out of that formula. I feel like they were a bit too quick to go into it. And I understand that every Wario Land game heavily changed, because Wario Land 4 is going to be an even bigger departure from everything else we've seen up until this point. It brings back a health bar. It brings in a health bar, for example, which Shake It is probably the one that doesn't. Shake It feels basically like a proper successor to 4 rather than being a reinvention. But at the same time, I still feel like we could have gotten more mileage out of Wario Land 2's gameplay. Go on.
Now, I guess to play fair to both sides, as for why people might like this game more than Wario Land 2. Well, some could argue that the plot here, and by that I mean the progression overall, is more meatier than Wario Land 2. Granted, Wario Land 2's compensation was that it had so many different alternative paths here and there, though maybe some people just weren't as much a fan of all those and wanted a more structured narrative here and there, or something that was more clear on this. Though this game does also have alternate endings, if I recall correctly.
No, it does not. It only has one ending.
Okay, then, so maybe people liked the focus on that better too.
I guess.
As for the gameplay, I guess some people... I guess it really does have that good old Metroidvania effect of making it feel like a better venture overall, and maybe that is the main reason people had it.
Oh, sure. Metroidvanias are incredibly popular, so I can definitely understand the love for this one. It's not that I can understand it.
That's it. I should clarify. I don't think that this is a pure Metroidvania. Like, normally the idea with a pure Metroidvania would be that, not all levels, but, it's kind of like,
You're in a big one without a hub, and you have to progress from one area to the other that are more interconnected to each other. Well, this is trying to combine that, but with a traditional platform, Mario platformer,
And also with a level select as well, as opposed to
that's what I meant.
Like a giant map as well. So, in that way, I guess that also helps show why people weren't alienated at the first get-go. It has Metroidvania elements, but it still is at its core a platformer. Nope. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that trap feels just a little bit...
Getting Battletoads flashbacks.
Yeah. While the gameplay is up to personal preference, one thing that I will definitely say is that if there's one thing I will definitely stand my foot on, it is the presentation and overall storyline, because the storyline is practically non-existent, whereas in the first Wario Land 2 we actually got every cutscene between at the end of every region, so a little more humor with Syrup and her minions and everything. And like I said, the multiple endings give you a good story incentive for searching out the alternate paths. It allowed us to like, for example, the ending where Syrup gets kidnapped by a ghost, for example. Like, we got at least a lot of cool little... Again, the story, of course, it's not so much that the story was meaty, it's more so that there was a lot of character for what little cutscenes there were. This game, on the other hand, has the intro, and then the cutscenes just are non-existent completely until the end, when we get all the 5 music boxes. And as a result, I feel like the experience is not quite as memorable to me. Like I really miss not just Syrup, but I really miss the little extra bits of character that the cutscenes in Wario Land 2 gave.
So I'm guessing you liked even Wario Land 4 better than this game then in that regard, because Wario Land 4 does bring back the emphasis on story.
Yes, I did actually. Not to mention, Wario Land 2 is actually one that actually is more of a straightforward platformer in comparison to this one. So I feel like it was much more...
Actually, I was talking about 4.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, 4. Did I say 3? Okay.
You said 2, actually.
Oh, did I? Okay. Well, I meant to say 4. The point is, Wario Land 4 is a much more straightforward platformer compared to this one, so I feel like it was much more enjoyable. Let me make a better word. Like, it was a bit... It was easy. It was easier to just sit back, relax, and enjoy. Like, whereas this game is, of course, a much more... this particular game requires a bit more commitment out of you.
I guess it does make me wonder why they shifted up again, given how the reception to this was unanimously positive.
I get the feeling the developers. I get the feeling the developers of Wario Land were definitely very, very experimental on their own. Because remember, Jova, Wario Land 1 was basically a typical Mario game, just with its own unique little twist on the type of power-ups you will get. Then Wario Land 2...
Wario Land 1 was literally Mario Land 3 when you get down to it.
Yeah. There's a reason why that one has the Super Mario Land 3 subtitle, because technically it still works as a typical Mario game. Then in Wario Land 2, they completely abandoned Mario-like gameplay altogether and created in the series. That's where the series gained its proper unique identity. Then for this one, they turned it into a Metroidvania. Then for 4, we went back into having a health system instead of being immortal and being a more straightforward platformer. Then Shake It was the one that actually did not bring in a complete reinvention because it was more of a proper successor to 4. So my guess is, Joe, that these developers of the Wario Land games, and combined with the Virtual Boy 1, the Virtual Boy 1 was more like a proper successor to the first game. So there's that. So I get the feeling that the developers were very adamant about not wanting the series to get stale and making sure every game had its own unique gameplay style. I get the feeling that it was a genuine decision on part of the developers rather than being based on any kind of player or critical feedback. They just really wanted to try different things with each title. That's the feeling I get, at least. And there you go.
Okay.
And Shake It came about. That game is weird, but in a good way.
I listened recently to the theme tune for Wario Land 4, and it's different.
Who was the composer for that?
Okay, well, I get the composer. By different, I mean they managed to get lyrics into a GBA cartridge.
Oh boy!
Lovely.
Oh, what does the book do?
The composer of 4 was Ryoji Yoshitomi.
Basically, Ni no Kuni style.
We tried the land.
Yeah, we did it Ni no Kuni style with both a wand and the magical book.
We froze it, right?
Yeah, we froze it. Okay, so the Frigid Sea. Let's see.
Also, Dweebs, don't be too surprised. I don't know if it was rated on the same time, before or after, but WarioWare does feature some lyrics, particularly Ashley's song, and that one also for those of the GBA. Sure, it's compressed as fuck, but it's still there.
Alright, crap.
Well, then again, I should be surprised that Nintendo IPs usually sometimes like to experiment with their gaming IP soundtracks. Team Skull's music, anybody?
The problem is that the GBA the GBA had such a terrible sound chip to work with.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Of all the GBA soundtracks that I've heard, the ones that were able to get good use out of it, for the most part, I should say, were any Nintendo game and Sega with the Sonic Advance trilogy.
I like the Final Fantasy Tactics Advance actual score, actually. It actually produced a lot of, not a lot, but a couple of mainstays of it got reprised for Advance 2.
I also really like the Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed soundtrack on the GBA Advance.
Yeah, because that's the thing, though. How each handheld console was basically a handheld version of another one. The Game Boy Advance was basically a handheld Super Nintendo with all but sound chip.
Basically.
Because the sound chip for the Super Nintendo, or the SNES as we Brits tend to call it for short, was made by Sony.
Okay.
How random. What does that rock do?
Well,
Remember
hey, if you want decent sound, get Sony.
Hold on, Dibs.
Remember, Teo, I still don't have the power-up that allows me to pick up things. So...
Right, I forgot.
Wait a minute, I need the power-up to pick stuff up.
Apparently, Wario. Apparently.
That'd be like Superman needing a power-up to do his basic power. Oh, wait.
Maybe the maybe the being that asked us to do this quest is doing the Atom thing. He's not permitting Wario to.
Any objections, Wario?
Oh yeah, the whole authorization thing.
See now, in Metroid Fusion, that line was cool, just fine. Another M had to
They
go and
managed
mess
to
it
ruin
up.
it.
Yeah.
But also, you can tell that this is not really a true Metroidvania because you cannot actually sequence break even if you don't have the powers.
You know, that's the thing about games considered the worst in the series that fascinates me. When Sonic got the worst game in his series, the series still carried on in spite of that. When Metroid got his worst game in the series just died for 6 or 7 years.
I think Johnny
It's
mentioned...
not so much that it died,
Sorry.
so much as just, well, they didn't really have much other further plans for it.
It was also, you have to remember, Johnny put it best in his reviews. It's a helmet?
Well, Terry, you might remember this from. Well, Terry, you might remember how in the first game that helmet allowed me to break stronger blocks, and it does kind of pretty much the same thing here. There you go. Now I can break blocks using my head.
Anyway, you were saying, Tio?
Yeah, Johnny mentioned it best in his review that Nintendo discovered quickly that Metroid as a franchise, was mostly cared about by America, by the West in general, rather than Japan. So when even the West kind of rejected other M, despite the fact that according to their team it was aimed at a Western audience, and everything. Again, the idea they decided to be to put things on at least on ice and be like, we're gonna think about this for a while.
This was back when, Retro Studios were busy with other matters,
Donkey Kong returns.
Yeah. So it wasn't like they could really just pump out another Prime. And as far as the main team went, other M, essentially.
Considering how... Go on.
The idea wasn't so much to put it on ice, it was more so to give the series a bit of a rest, which a lot of people agreed the series kind of needed. Mind you, it got a little bit out of hand eventually when it seemed like the series was dead, but thankfully made a triumphant return with Samus Returns, aptly named. And yeah, that announcement of Prime 4 was pretty great. And now look at us! We finally have a proper Metroid 5.
And still no Prime 4.
Well, it's coming. They're giving it the love that it... Yeah, I mean... And you know what's sad? Prime 4 still is looking a lot better off than...
I just hope Retro still got it, because there's been quite a lot of departures and some questionable stuff that has happened behind the scenes at Retro over the years.
What happened with them?
Well, okay, if you want the basic gist of it, check Harlow's video on the matter, but basically, Retro...
They did not make Pikmin 4. 0 10. Sorry, obvious joke, gone.
Sure. Basically, after Tropical Freeze, it seemed like they were making their own original IP, but apparently the development wasn't going well. It eventually ended up being cancelled. If you do some investigative stuff from sites like LinkedIn and stuff, apparently there's even plenty of people left Retro over the years.
They put up a recent announcement recently that they're actually hiring new people, so yeah, it does fit.
Not just that, but remember, after their original IP failed, probably what happened, they also took advantage. They also took that extra time to port Tropical Freeze to the Switch. And recently, since since their original IP wasn't really going anywhere, they decided, what, fuck it, you're doing Metro Prime 4 now. So and remember, all of the people who worked on the original trilogy have since left to found Armature. So it does beg the question if the guys who are now currently at Retro have the skill to make a Metro Prime 4 that lives up to expectations. We'll have to wait and see. I hope they do.
Yeah.
I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because
sure.
Tropical Freeze was still a good venture, but I can get the worry.
I actually forgot, I will have to recheck in the meantime, but I forgot who was supposed originally to develop it, Metro Prime 4, before it got shifted.
It was being developed internally at Nintendo.
Namco?
It was internal.
Oh, okay.
I think it was being developed internally at Nintendo.
Wait, For a moment I was about to say, oh, wasn't that one of the many, many, many games that Platinum took under the wing? But no. Thankfully not. Oh god, Platinum, they're going through their own rough patch these days.
That's a thing, Jova. If you're talking about their recent talk about how they're gonna make live service games, at the time of this recording at least.
I'm talking mainly about their output, actually. Babylon's Fall ain't looking too good. They've been having a few issues with games and their productions overall here and there, I do hope that they find their footing proper.
Sure. Well, there's still a Bayonetta 3 coming, at least. There's that.
Yes, there's that, and Bayonetta 3 does look pretty good.
Honestly, that's the thing, Joe. I've started getting worried about Platinum the moment back when Google Stadia was about to come out, and Inaba, the president, said how, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X sound so boring. They're just more consoles. I'm far more interested in Google Stadia because it looks like it's doing something different. And I'm
was this before or after Google Stadia made a fool of itself?
No, this was before.
The better question, Jova, was that before or after Tencent acquired a sizable amount of stonks of the company?
I forgot. Let me double check.
Because the whole games live service, the shift could be attributed to the executive of that pressing onto them.
So essentially, Tencent speaking through Platinum like a puppet.
Basically.
That being said, though, I do hope that Platinum find their footing, but Babylon's Fall just...
Well, again, I never had any particular problem during the marketing of the game. I just have to see what it turns out.
Okay, I'm not having any luck finding it on Google News or any kind of thing. But here's the thing: I haven't made a status update about it when it happened. Basically, Inaba was talking about how the PS5 and Xbox Series X are just going to be just 2 more consoles. And he was talking about something along the lines of, Google Stadia is actually something that I'm a bit more interested in because it's trying something different. And for the record, this was before Google Stadia didn't even come out. It was about to come out, but so technically it was before they embarrassed themselves. Yes. So I get that was when I first started getting worried about Platinum. Why would you even Why would you even care about?
Why do you think he can be blocking this guy on Twitter?
Inaba is his friend, too. So.
I know. I was mostly joking.
There were quite a few people who were actually thinking Google Stadia was going to be the next big thing. Even Square, who legit made an exclusive version of Final Fantasy 15 with exclusive content for Google Stadia. What the hell?
There we go. Green treasure.
Well, I can assure you, if they did that for the 7 remake, I still wouldn't play it.
No, Dwibs, I think you would be in the majority. As terrible as Google Stadia is, you know what most people would do? Hack it, put it on the internet, or beam it into a mod eventually.
I always do the third step, Jonah. Just ignore it and buy something else.
Good for you, Dwibs.
Oops.
So anyway, in the next part, we will be encountering more magical crayons of doom, and collect Wario's missing tooth.
Sure. See ya.
See ya.